Okay, so let's offer our respects to Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Okay, so what did we see in the previous class?
We started with the 7th chapter, 7.2 we started, I think.
Yes.
7.2 was about knowledge, phenomenal knowledge and numinous knowledge, I think.
So what is phenomenal knowledge and numinous knowledge in common terms?
Material
Spiritual.
knowledge and spiritual, in this context at least.
Yes.
Jnana and Vijnana.
Excellent.
Jnana and Vijnana.
Yes, material and spiritual knowledge. So what is complete knowledge? Prabhupada said in the purport. We saw the definition. Prabhupada said,
Spiritual.
sorry?
Transcendental knowledge.
So what does that know? Transcendental knowledge is spiritual knowledge, but complete knowledge. What is complete knowledge?
Complete knowledge.
So having an understanding of the material knowledge and then how to implement spiritually, is it? I think it's a combination of both, right? That's what transcendental knowledge is.
Yeah. Okay. One element is missing in the definition. One more element.
Krishna?
No. Yeah, Krishna. So how do we connect Krishna to the material and the spiritual worlds?
I think you gave the example of that pearl, the string, the thread that goes through, that Krishna is the one binding all the pearls. So all your material and transaction knowledge is, he's the one binding. That's what I remember, the example of the pearl string.
Yes. Okay, so let's come to the exact definition of what Prabhupada said. He says in the purport of 7.2, I think, if I'm not mistaken, that complete knowledge is material knowledge and spiritual, and not knowledge. Prabhupada said that complete knowledge means knowing the material, knowing the spiritual, and knowing the source of both. Who is the source of both of them? Yes. So then Krishna says in the next verse that now I'm going to speak to you that knowledge, after knowing which nothing else is left to be known. So then Krishna begins to describe first the elements of the material world, and he gives the 8 elements, no? The 5 gross elements and the 3 subtle elements. And then when he talks about spiritual, he talks about how the living entities belong to his superior energy.
Right.
So because Krishna is saying now after knowing this, nothing else is left to be known. That's why Prabhupada says that complete knowledge means knowing the material, knowing the spiritual, and knowing the source of both of them. Then so that's why then first he describes the gross elements, then he talks about the spiritual energy, and then Krishna says that I am the source of both of them. He says, no, mata parataram nanyat. There is nothing above me, Krishna says. So that means from Krishna, everything has come, everyone has come. Krishna has not come from anybody else. Okay, then Krishna, in the next section of verses, he describes how he is the taste and water, he's the energy, he's the intelligence of the intelligent. Like that, he describes how he's the defining element. Whatever greatness or anything magnanimous that we see, that is also coming from Krishna. So he gives some examples in that section. Do you remember some of the examples?
Is the
Talks.
juice in the fruits,
Yes.
vegetable fruits.
Yes. So here, taste of water, light of the sun and the moon, the syllable Om, he's the sound and ether, the original fragrance of the earth, heat and fire, life of all that lives. So why does Krishna say all this? What is the need for him to say this? Somebody may think that, oh, Krishna is showing off, he's boasting. But what is Krishna's purpose in saying this? What did this, what was the first verse? What is the goal?
That he's in everything and everywhere, in every entity of, in every living entity. That's what he's trying to say, I think.
But why? Why should we know that?
Because only by hearing about Krishna and Krishna's pastime, we can know him. So hearing is the
Because he's the cause of all causes.
Okay, he may be whatever he may be. Why should we know that?
So that we can believe in him, so that we can be, like he says, okay, first you have to hear, then you have to have the knowledge, that 5 stages. It was, I think, in 7.2, if I'm not mistaken. Oh no. Where
Yeah.
So
he's
if we are attached to him, then we are free from all the doubts.
Yeah, because eventually any yoga process has to come eventually to which state? To this state. See, Krishna's opening lines in this verse. He says, Mai asakta manaha. Your mind should be attached to me, Krishna says. So eventually, whatever yoga process one may follow, at the end of it, we have to come to this stage. Mai asakta mana. Our mind should be attached to Krishna. So when we drink water, and we know that Krishna is in the taste of water, immediately we are thinking about Krishna. When we see the sun and the moon, immediately one can think about Krishna. Oh yes, the light from the sun and the moon, the heat is also coming from Krishna. When we see the beautiful flowers, these colors are coming from Krishna. The aroma from the earth, that is also coming from Krishna. So wherever we see, we can perceive Krishna's presence. And this is the reason why Krishna is saying these statements, so that we can remember Krishna and we can attach our minds to Krishna. This is the reason why Krishna is saying what he is saying. Okay. What else did we see in the previous class?
We saw that Krishna is Satchidanand.
He is Satchitananda and we are also Satchitananda. Yes, that's the reason why we are not, because we are Satchit Ananda, but now we have come in the material world and we are under the influence of the modes of material nature. That's why there is a conflict, because by nature we are not supposed to die. We are eternal, Sat, Ananda. We have to be, the soul is always, has to always experience pleasure, right? But we are going through some suffering here. So that's why the conflict is there, because we have come under the modes of material nature. But by nature, we are Satchitananda and so is Krishna. And why do we, and here then Krishna says in the last section that we saw in the previous class, how we have come under the influence of the 3 modes of material nature, and how Krishna says that these material modes have come from me, but he is independent. He does not come under the modes of material nature. Okay, Then we saw about goddess Durga for the first time in our Gita classes, isn't it? How she is the fortress of this material world. That's why her name is Durga. Durg means fort. Durga means the fortress, or one who takes care of this material world, which is compared to a fort. That's why she is called as Durga. Okay. So let's begin today's session. Please repeat Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate
Namo
Vasudevaya.
Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo
Om
Om
Namo
Namo
Bhagavate
Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om
Om
Namo
Namo
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Okay, we need two volunteers to read, please. Who can read today?
I can read.
Okay, thank you. Harman, that was Harman, right?
Yes.
Okay, and one more?
I can read a translation.
Okay, thank you, Shreya. So let's read this and see what this next section deals with.
Section 4, 7.15 to 7.19. The impious never surrender, pious do. 4 kinds of men never surrender, and 4 kinds of men do surrender. Of those who surrender, the jnani with no material desire is best but rare.
Now here in this section, Krishna is going to talk about the 4 categories of people who never surrender to Krishna and 4 categories of people who do surrender to Krishna. That's what 15 and 16 is all about. Let us see. One second.
नमां दुष्कृतिनो मूढाः प्रपद्यन्ते नराधमाः माययापहृतज्ञाना आसुरं भावमाश्रिताः.
Those miscreants who are grossly foolish, who are lowest among mankind, whose knowledge is stolen by illusion, and who partake of the atheistic nature of demons, do not surrender unto me.
So who are these 4 people who never surrender to Krishna? The moodhas, the foolish, okay? Then the naradhamas. Naradhamas means they are the lowest among the mankind. We'll see them in detail in the following slides. Then the mayaya paharta jnana. Those people whose knowledge is stolen by illusion. And the 4th is asuram, the asuras or the atheists. So these 4 categories of people never surrender to Krishna. Now let us see, read about the mudas or the grossly foolish. What kind of people are these grossly foolish? Let's read.
Mudas, grossly foolish like hard-working asses, beasts of burden. Attachment to the fruits. They are furtive workers who want to enjoy the fruits of their labor by themselves and do not want to part with them for the supreme. B. Does not know for whom he should work. Analogy. Just like an ass works hard for his master, but does not know for whom he works so hard. C. Level of happiness. For them, destructible material gains are lives all in all, although they enjoy a very small fraction of the fruits of their labor. Mudas work hard but sleepless nights, no time for food. He suffers from ulcers, indigestion, etc. Or similarly, an ass is satisfied by filling his stomach by a bundle of grass, sleeping for a while under the fear of being beaten, and satisfying his sex appetite at the risk of being repeatedly kicked by the opposite party. D. No time to hear for immortality of soul. Analogy. Swine eats night soil, not care for sweet meals.
So these are the points from the purport that Srila Prabhupada has written. He has compared the mudas or the grossly foolish people to asses or the donkeys. What do these donkeys do? They labor day in and day out, right? And at the end of the day, the master gives them some grass to eat. And they think that, okay, to eat this grass, I have to be laboring really hard. Only then I will get this grass. That foolish donkey does not know that grass is available anywhere and he doesn't have to labor so hard. So mudas are those categories of people who who work so hard in their material life, and at the end of the day, what are they getting? Of course, materially, they are going to get what is there in their karma. They're not going to get more than that. But they labor hard day in and day out at the cost of ignoring their spiritual life. So here, see, Prabhupada writes there in the under the C point C, he says, the Mudas work hard, but sleepless nights, no time for food. He suffers from ulcers, indigestion, etc. So he even ignores his health. He's working so hard that he even ignores his health. So like that, an ass is satisfied by filling his stomach by a bundle of grass, sleeping for a while under the fear of being beaten. So this ass is always under the fear that my master is going to beat me if I don't work so hard. No. And then what? Satisfying his sex appetite at the risk of being repeatedly kicked by the opposite party. So when the male donkey approaches the female donkey, the male donkey gets really it gets kicked really hard in the face by the female donkey, but still the male donkey approaches and thinking that, wow, this is great. So he continues to approach and he continues to get kicked by the female. This is the analogy that Srila Prabhupada gives us in the purport. Then see that swine eats night soil, not care for sweet meats. So like that, these mudas, they have no time to hear about the soul. They don't derive the nectar. They cannot enjoy that nectar because they are so completely engrossed in sense gratification. Just as how the pigs, they eat stool, but if you give them some nice sweet stuff to eat, they are not going to enjoy it. Even Lord Indra, once he was cursed to become a hog. And Lord Indra, in the body of the hog, he has his family, right? He has his wife pig and he has the piglets, he has his children, and he's eating stool. Lord Indra, the king of heaven, right? Now he's in the body of a pig and he's eating stool. When his time was over, right, and he had to again go back to undertaking his services as the king of heaven, he had to be reinstated as the king of heaven. He did not want to go. Lord Brahma came to tell him that, okay, now it's time. Please leave this big body and go and take up your position as the king of heaven. And Indra, in that body of the pig, he says, no, I don't want to go anywhere. I am very much satisfied. I have my pig wife, I have my piglets, I have to take care of them. I'm enjoying this life. I'm very happy. I don't want to go anywhere. So that's the way these mudas work. They don't care for the real nectar. They are so engrossed in slogging day in and out. The first category of people who never surrender to Krishna are the mudas. Now the second category of people, Naradhamas. Let's read.
Naradamas, lowest of mankind. Nara means human being and Adama means lowest. Different categories of human species. A. Uncivilized, numerous lower forms of human life. B. Civilized, those who have regulated principles of social, political, and religious life. C. Naradamas, socially and politically developed but no religious principles. Purpose of following religious principles: to know the supreme truth and man's relation with him. Civilized form of life, meant to revive the man's lost consciousness of his eternal relationship with the supreme truth. Nirodhama, whoever loses the chance of human life to revive their lost relationship falls into this category. Example of losing the chance: baby in mother's womb promises to worship him after taking birth, but he forgets as soon as he gets out and falls into Maya.
So Naradhamas are those people who do not care for the Shastras. They do not care for what the scriptures say. They do not follow any kinds of rules and regulations. They don't care. They eat meat, they intoxicate, they have illicit sex, they get into gambling, and they engage in all kinds of sinful activities. No care for what the Shastras say. Although externally, socially, and politically, they may be very sophisticated, right? Very much developed. But if they have no religious principles, then they are the lowest of the mankind. So this example of losing the chance, baby in the mother's womb promises to worship him after taking birth, but he forgets as soon as he gets out and falls into Maya. There is a very graphic description of this in the Srimad Bhagavatam, how when we were in the wombs of our mothers, or when the child is in the womb of the mother, the child can remember his past many births, and he remembers how he has fallen into Maya and how he did not surrender. And he's in that helpless position in the womb, right? Because he's getting bitten by worms, he's in his own urine and stool, and his skin is burning, he cannot see, he's in a small position, he's getting cramped up for space. And when the mother eats very spicy or very pungent foods, then the skin of the baby is burning. So he's in such a hopeless condition, and he's remembering his past many births, and he's very, very disturbed. So the child in the womb, then he promises the Lord that, okay, my Lord, I promise you that in this lifetime I will surrender unto you. So all of us have made that promise when we were in the wombs of our mothers. But the moment we took birth, we forget. We forget that we have made this promise, and we fall into Maya. There is a nice video also describing exactly what the Bhagavatam says about the child's helpless condition in the womb. But it's a very, very graphic video. It's up to you if you want to watch it or no. I will share it in the group, but you watch it at your discretion. If you like, you can watch it. Okay, so there is more on Naradhamas here. Let's see.
Niradhamas, lowest of mankind. Systems designed to revive the lost relationship with God. A. It is the duty of the guardians of the children to revive dormant consciousness in them. B. This is done by Varnashrama system and the 10 samskaras, which are meant for purification and elevation. 99.9% of population is Naradama because they lack the Varnashrama system and purificatory samskaras. Effect and of all powerful material energy on Naradamas. All their education is made null and void. Hope for Naradamas. Mercy of devotees. Example, Jagai and Madai. Recommendation of Lord Chaitanya for Naradamas can also be delivered by submissive hearing processes, which they usually neglect. Unfortunate condition of Naradamas. They refuse to give oral reception to the messages of Godhead, and thus Naradamas neglect the prime duty of the human being.
So Prabhupada says the only hope for them is what? Mercy of the devotees, example Jagai and Madai. So have we done the story of Jagai and Madai in our previous classes? I don't remember. Have we done it?
Yes.
Okay. So we saw how Jagai and Madai were delivered because Lord Nityananda was merciful. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to kill them because they offended Nityananda Prabhu. They struck Nityananda Prabhu. One of them struck Nityananda Prabhu, and Nityananda Prabhu was bleeding. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to kill them. But because of the mercy of Lord Nityananda, they received the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. And then eventually they became stalwart devotees. Every day they were chanting 200,000 names of God. They became such stalwart devotees, such great Vaishnavas, that people were now respecting them. And today, there is also their Samadhi in West Bengal. There is a place called Katwa. If you go there, there is a place called Madai Tala, where you have this, the place where Madai stayed. And that's where you have the Samadhis of Jagai and Madai. If you visit West Bengal, you can go and visit this place. So imagine, from being the greatest of offenders, not offenders, but they were indulged in all kinds of sinful activities. But they had not committed any offense. They had not committed any offense to a Vaishnava because they never came across a Vaishnava during their sinful lives, right? So from being such grossly sinful, they became stalwart devotees because of the mercy of a devotee. So this is the hope there is for Naradhamas. They can be delivered by the mercy of the devotees. So what is recommended? That they have to hear submissively. Krishna also began this chapter by saying Tat Shrinu, just hear, he tells Arjuna, right? So just by hearing, then they can be delivered. But what is the misfortune is that they are not ready. They are not willing to listen. Whenever there is a satsanga, a Gita class, a Bhagavatam class, they don't want to hear because they they think that human body is not meant for all these things. They just want to enjoy, quote unquote, no, sense gratification. So they neglect the duty of the human body. So what is the first category of people who never surrender? Moodas, the grossly foolish. 2 is Naradhamas, those who never follow the Shastra. And 3 is, let's read.
Maya Partha Jnana, knowledge stolen by illusory energy. Range of their knowledge is only devoted to material world. Examples, they are mostly very learned. Example, philosophers, literary poets, but are misguided and they disobey the Supreme Lord. Many mundane scholars of Bhagavad Gita also fall into this category because they consider Lord to be an ordinary human being, because they do not know that the blessed form of human life is designed after the eternal and transcendental feature of the Supreme Lord.
So see, these people, Maya Paharta Jnana, their knowledge is stolen by illusory energy. Just see, because remember in the beginning, we discussed how complete knowledge means to know the material, to know the spiritual, and to know the source of both. But our modern education, do we learn material and spiritual and the source of both in our schools and colleges?
No,
No. What knowledge do we receive from these three?
just material.
Just material,
Material.
just material, yes. Because the knowledge is only material and there is no concept of spiritual or trying to find out the source of both. Therefore, that knowledge is incomplete. Knowledge is stolen by illusory energy. People are put under illusion. So that's why they say that, okay, everything comes from matter, right? There is no concept of spirit or spiritual. Everything comes from matter. The universe, the planets, all entities, everything has come from matter. They don't stop to analyze how this has come about. The doctor may tell that, okay, so and so has passed away. Passed away means what? Because the body is there of that person. So what is that element which has passed away? What is it that has gone away, far away? What is it?
The soul.
The soul, yes, but they don't realize that they are very educated because they have material knowledge, but there is no spiritual knowledge. So therefore, this category of people, their knowledge is stolen by illusory energy because their knowledge is incomplete. So we go to schools and colleges. Now, how many years of our life we go to these schools and got 12, 13, 14, 15 years, 20 years, people study PhDs, but they are not even taught the basics that you are not this body, you are spiritual. That we come to know only after we read Bhagavad Gita or when we come to learning transcendental knowledge. Bhagavad Gita right away goes, Krishna goes right away to the root of the problem when he tells Arjuna, you are not this body, you are spiritual. But this basic knowledge, we don't get even after we go to schools and colleges for 14, 15, 20 years. So this is what we were discussing, how complete knowledge means matter, spirit, and to know the source of both. And therefore, Prabhupada, he makes this strong statement in the Ishopanishad purport. He says the universities are, so to speak, centers of nascence only. Nascence means ignorance. So he's saying these universities are centers of ignorance only. There is no knowledge that is being given. They are only centers of ignorance. Okay, now the fourth category.
Ashuram Bhavam Asrita, envious toward God, atheistic demons. Their arguments: A. Supreme Lord can never descend in material world, but they are unable to give tangible reasons as why Lord cannot descend. B. He is subordinate to impersonal features. C. Present illicit incarnations from factory of the brain.
So these are the atheistic people. They believe that God cannot descend in the material world. They cannot, basically they are atheistic. They don't believe in the existence of God. So what are the four categories of people who never surrender to Krishna? Here is a summary. Moodas, Naradhamas, Mayaya Paharta Jnana, and Asuram Bhavam Ashritaha. So you can see the picture. In this picture, who is a Muda?
Yes.
Which one?
The
The
man
one
with the
that's
bag.
carrying.
Yes, the man who's carrying that heavy bag, no? So Prabhupada said they are like asses, like the donkeys who work
Mhm.
day in and day out. Then Naradama?
The man with that who's trying to kill that lady.
Yes. Why? Because he has no, he doesn't care for the scriptures. So he's just engaging in sinful activities. Then 3, whose knowledge is stolen by illusion?
The one who looks like a
Scientist.
scientist.
The one.
The scientist.
Yes, the scientist. Why? Because what knowledge? He has a lot of material knowledge, but that is incomplete.
No
Because that
spiritual.
material knowledge is incomplete, his knowledge is covered by illusion. Then who's an
The
atheist?
general is the atheist.
Yes.
Since he's
Yes. So he thinks that he is the supreme controller. He does not realize that God is the supreme controller and he is only the servant of God. So he thinks that he is the supreme controller. So that dictator there, he is the 4th category who never surrenders to Krishna. Okay. Now we'll see 4 categories of people who do surrender to Krishna.
चतुर्विधा भजन्ते मां जनाः सुकृतिनोऽर्जुन आर्तो जिज्ञासुरर्थार्थी ज्ञानी च भरतर्षभ.
O best among the Bharatas, 4 kinds of pious men begin to render devotional service unto me: the distressed, the desirer of wealth, the inquisitive, and he who is searching for knowledge of the Absolute.
So these are the 4 Sukritinas. The previous ones, they were the 4 Dushkritina, or the people who never surrender. Dushkritina is the word, and here they're the Sukritinas, the ones who do surrender. So who are these people who do surrender? One is
Distressed.
Artaha.
Artaha. Artaha means distressed. Can you think of someone who surrendered to Krishna when he was distressed? From the
Pati?
Bhagavatam?
Arjuna.
Arjuna? No, he has surrendered to Krishna even before that.
Draupadi, I think.
Draupadi,
Is from Mahabharata actually.
yes, she did surrender to Krishna when she was under distress, but even before that, she had surrendered to Krishna.
Okay.
Okay, we'll come to that later. Let's discuss it later. Okay, so one is when one person is distressed, the artha, the distressed. Then second,
Jichnasu.
okay, before that, okay, you're going by the Sanskrit.
The ones who are pious, Sukritina.
So Sukritina, all 4 are Sukritinas. They are all pious because they surrender to Krishna.
Artha.
Artha,
Arthi.
Arthi.
Artha, Artharthi. Artha means the distressed. Artharthi means one who desires material gain. So the desirer of wealth. So sometimes people worship God because they want wealth. That's 2. Third category is now what Harman said. What was your answer, Harman? Can you say that now?
Jichnasu.
Yeah, Jignashu, which means they are inquisitive. Out of inquisitiveness, they inquire, oh, what's going on? And then eventually they will go to Krishna. And 4th,
Gnani.
the Jnani. Jnani is one who knows things as they are, or they are searching for the knowledge. Now, one may ask, what is the difference between the inquisitive and one who's searching for knowledge? I remember Komal had asked me this question on a one-on-one session. So what is the answer? And a person who's inquisitive, his inquiry is casual. But the Jnani, his inquiry is serious. So there is a difference between a casual inquiry and a serious inquiry. Now, maybe, there is a Janmashtami feast going on in the temple, and there is a lot of activity. People are dressed up, and there is a loud kirtan sound coming. And somebody who's just walking past the temple on the road, maybe inquisitive, hey, what's going on here? The door is open. There is a lot of music sound coming. Let me just go and see what's going on. So out of inquisitiveness, he enters the temple, right? But a Jnani is one who seriously is searching for the absolute truth. So that's a serious inquiry. casual inquiry and serious inquiry. Another difference we will see in the upcoming slides. Okay, so the 4 categories of people are the distressed, the desirer of wealth, one who's inquisitive, and one who's searching for knowledge of the absolute. These are the 4 Sukritinas. So in this picture, who is Artha? Who is distressed?
The
This
one with the kids.
The one with the kids is distressed.
So everyone with kids is distressed, is it?
No, the one in the blue
Yes.
top. Yeah.
Yeah, the
Okay.
one in the blue, he's distressed because he's handicapped and he has a physical problem.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And now, who's Artharthi? Who's seeking wealth?
The one with
The one with
kids.
the kids.
By the way, the kids is
Because now he needs some money to look after his children. So, so he's seeking wealth. Jignashu?
the one with
Uh,
the finger on his chin, like.
yeah.
Yes. So you can see that he's just making a casual inquiry, isn't it? And a
Yeah.
Jnani?
The man with the white hair
Sadhu,
and
yeah.
beard.
Yes. So
Big beard.
he's seriously seeking, right? His inquiry is very, very serious. He from his heart, he really wants to know. So he is the Jnani, the 4 Sukritinas.
Sukriti.
So now we are going to see examples of each one of these 4 categories. So here we are seeing the story of Gajendra, which we discussed in a previous
The
time.
elephant?
I remember Divya had told us the story, but now we will see how Gajendra surrendered to the Lord when he was under distress. Let's read.
Ages ago, on a celestial planet lived Gajendra, the king of the elephants. Once Gajendra and his companions wandered to the lake. They plunged in, bathed, and drank the cold, clear, nectarine water and felt utterly satisfied and refreshed. Then, suddenly, a huge crocodile attacked the mighty elephant's leg. Gajendra was uncommonly strong, but though he tried and tried, he could not get free. His wives felt aggrieved and began to cry. The other elephants wanted to rescue Gajendra by grasping him from behind, but because the crocodile's great strength, they could not do anything. So the crocodile and the king of the elephants fought and pulled each other in and out of the water for 1,000 years. Eventually, the elephant became weak. At the same time, the crocodile, being an animal of the water, increased in enthusiasm, physical strength, and sensory power. When Gajendra saw that he could not save himself, he became terrified and of being killed. The other male elephants, my friends and relatives, cannot help me, he thought. What then? To speak of my wives, I must be the will of Providence that I have been attacked by this crocodile. The serpent of eternal time endlessly chases everyone, said Gajendra. But if one who fears the serpent or seeks the shelter of the Supreme Lord, the Lord gives him protection. Even death runs away in fear of the Lord. I therefore surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Now Gajendra fixed his mind on a prayer he had learned in his previous life, and he chanted it with all his heart. Seeing Gajendra's awakened position, the Supreme Lord, in his four-armed form as Vishnu, flew toward the mountain lake on the back of his great winged carrier, Garuda. Gajendra was still caught in the jaws of the crocodile, and was feeling acute pain, but he was relieved to see the Lord coming to rescue him. So, with great difficulty, due to his painful condition, he took a lotus flower in his trunk, raised it high, and prayed, O my Lord, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. The Lord got down from Garuda's back and pulled Gajendra and the crocodile out of the water. Then he released his disc and cut the crocodile's head from his body. All the demigods and sages who had gathered there praised this act and showered flowers upon the Lord and Gajendra.
So here we see how Gajendra, he surrendered to the Lord when he was in distress. So his leg was caught in the crocodile's mouth, and water is the strong place of the crocodile, no? And because the elephant is a land animal, he began to lose strength. How long did this war between the two personalities go on?
1,000
1,000
years.
1,000 years, because remember, this is a celestial planet. They are not on this ordinary earthly planet. This is a celestial planet. And so both are equally strong. And if when you read this chapter in detail, it says that the entire mountain would tremble under the weight of Gajendra the elephant. That's how strong he was. So when he was in pain, he surrendered to the Lord, and the Lord, and not only did he pray, how did he pray? It says here, he chanted it with all his heart. So his prayer was coming from his heart. That's how he prayed. And immediately then Lord Vishnu, he came. And when you read the chapter directly from the Bhagavatam, you will see how the other demigods have also gathered at this spot. You can see in the picture, you can see Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma. So other demigods also had gathered on the spot when Lord Vishnu had come to save Gajendra the elephant. So this is one category of people who surrender to Krishna when they are distressed. Okay, now just as a side note, where is Lord Vishnu in the picture?
The one
center
next to
one.
Garuda in the
Yeah.
middle.
Okay, and who is to the right of Lord Vishnu then?
No, that is Krishna.
Where is Krishna?
Peacock
The middle.
feathers on the.
Center is a Krishna, and I think Vishnu would be on the right then.
Okay, but Krishna and Vishnu, both of them didn't appear here.
Same
Krishna.
one, yes. Then who's the
Shiva,
one with peacock feathers?
Yeah, the center one has peacock feathers.
Yeah.
Shiva's with a snake.
Lord Shiva is with the snake. Yes, yes. He is in the party who have descended to see the pastime. And you can even see in the sky, there are some demigods who are showering
Demigods, yes.
blessings, right? Yeah, so many demigods had gathered, had appeared there when this pastime took place. But my question is, who are these two personalities? If one is Lord Vishnu, it was Lord Vishnu who came on Garuda. Okay, so if one is Lord Vishnu, then who's the other one?
Brahma?
No, Brahma is behind with 4 heads. He's behind Lord Shiva on the left.
Ah, okay.
Balram ji.
No, not Balram. Balram did not appear in this pastime.
Can you just maximize the picture?
Oh,
Zoom?
okay. I think
Can you
I
zoom it?
don't know, but I feel Gajendra has attained liberation.
Ah, yes, Gajendra. I cannot maximize the picture because it's a presentation.
Okay.
Because I see a
Um,
part of the elephant at the back of the you are referring to.
exactly. See, the elephant is behind. So when Gajendra, after this pastime, because Gajendra was cursed in his previous lifetime, here is a story. Gajendra was cursed in the previous lifetime, and that's how he got the body of an elephant. And once this crocodile was killed, the soul in the elephant's body got its original, got liberation, right? And there are 5 kinds of liberation. Have we discussed the 5 kinds of liberation in our classes?
No.
Yes, we did long time back.
So does anybody remember what are the 5 kinds of liberation?
I just remember Swarupa.
Sarupya. Okay, so that's the only one we need, because Sarupya means you get the same form as the Lord. So here you can see Gajendra has got the same form as the Lord. That's why he also has 4 hands, and he's holding the same articles in his 4 hands as Lord Vishnu. He also has the conch, and he also has the gada. What do you call it? What is gada called in English? I forgot. Okay, so whatever it is,
Club.
he has the club. Yes, the club. Thank you. So that's why he has the same form as the Lord. Sarupya is the kind of vibration that he has got. Okay, let us see about the previous lifetime here.
Even the crocodile has also become a.
Yes, yes. Yes, even the crocodile, he
Human
retains
life.
his position that he had in her previous lifetime. We will see that here.
Okay.
In their previous lives, both Gajendra and the crocodile had been kings. The crocodile had been king Hu of the Gandharva planet. But once, while reveling in the water with a group of celestial women, he had somehow pulled the leg of the sage Devala. At this, sage became furious and cursed King Hu to become a crocodile. Despondent, the king begged for pardon from the sage, who gave him the benediction that he would be freed at the very moment when the Supreme Lord delivered Gajendra. So, as soon as the Lord cut off the crocodile's head, the soul left that body and regained the beautiful form of the demigod King Huhu. After offering prayers to Krishna, King Huhu returned at once to the Darva planet. In his previous life, Gajendra had been Indradyumna, a great devotee of Lord Krishna. When Indradyumna retired from his kingdom and family life, he went to the Malaya hills, where he lived in a small cottage and practiced spiritual disciplines. Once, while observing a vow of silence, he became fully absorbed in the ecstasy of love of Godhead. Just then the great sage Agastya arrived along with his disciples. But King Indradyumna was so absorbed in meditation that he did not even notice the sage. What to speak of offering him a proper reception? Angered at this breach of etiquette, Agastya cursed the king. This king Indradyumna is not at all gentle, said Agastya. Being low and uneducated, he has insulted me. May he therefore enter the region of darkness and receive the dull, dumb body of an elephant. Because Indradyumna was a devotee, he humbly accepted the sage's curse as the desire of the Lord. He lost his royal position and got the body of an elephant, but he retained his devotional mentality. And because he remembered how to offer prayers to the Lord, he received spiritual liberation. In fact, after the Lord saved his dear devotee from the crocodile's jaws, he promised, anyone who offers me the prayers you have offered and meditates upon my form, this lake, this mountain, the gardens, the celestial trees, and by unlimited all auspicious activities, he will at last receive eternal residence in the spiritual world. And chapters 3 and 4.
Okay. So Harman, can you connect this with something else that you are learning nowadays?
Um, like how?
Last time you told me that you were attending the other class, remember?
Yes,
What are you
because there
learning
was
there?
the Gajendra prayers.
Gajendra prayers. So this is what, these are the same Gajendra prayers that they are teaching you in that other class. So see that. After the Lord saved his dear devotee from the crocodile jaws, he promised, anyone who offers me the prayers you have offered. So Gajendra, he offers some prayers to the Lord at that time. And those prayers are very, very famous. They are called as Gajendra's prayers, right? And those prayers are very famous because the Lord says, and who meditates on my form, this lake, this mountain, the garden, and the celestial. Wait. Anyone who offers me the prayers you have offered and who meditates on my form, lake, mountain, garden, celestial trees, and my unlimited all auspicious activities, he will at last receive eternal residence in the spiritual world. That's why these Gajendra prayers are so famous. You can read it if you like. Here in detail, there are 2 chapters that are dedicated to this pastime. Okay. What else do we learn from the story? Another important concept that we learned in the Gita previously, the proof of that lesson is there in the story. What is that?
Can I go, Mataji?
What's that?
Can I go, Mataji?
Yes.
The prayer is that we should surrender our spiritual master, and in this life, after 84,000 million yoni, we get the Manushya Janma. So we should complete our bhakti in this life only. For that, we have to surrender ourselves to a spiritual master, our Guru Parampara, Six Goswami, and then we have to chant our whatever instruction given by our spiritual master, chant attentively. When we chant attentively, when we hear attentively Krishna Katha, Krishna Katha, Krishna Katha, Sisi Bhagavad Gita, Sisi Bhagavatam, Sisi Chaitanya Charanamrut. So here Gajendra said that nobody helps in this material world. This is my daughter, this is my son, this is my father. Yes, there is a relation attached with us, but we should not attach with our material responsibility. We should surrender. Finally, Lord Krishna is our Krishna Mata, Krishna Pita, Krishna Mahadeva. Lord Krishna is Purna Bhagwan, and we have to surrender them as Das, Dasan, Das Bhav. We have to perform our duty, whether it's a wife, husband, kids. We have to perform our duty, but whole day we have to remember Lord Krishna and Srimati Radharani's lotus feet. Hari Hari Gauranga.
Jai. Thank you so much, Vrinda Gopika Mataji. Yeah, so as she said, as Mataji said, that we may have relatives and many children and husband and friends and all that stuff, but at the end of the day, if we don't surrender to the Lord, then none of these other relatives or family are going to help us. As we saw in the case of Gajendra, he was with other female elephants, right? He was with his family and everybody. They were all sporting there together with all these companions. But when the crocodile caught his feet, nobody was able to help him. The only way that he could come out of the situation was by surrendering to the Lord. So we may have the greatest of husbands or a very loving wife, very loving children, but they cannot accompany us beyond death. Even in the Christian religion, when they get married, they take this vow, no, until death do us apart. But the Lord, in the form of the super soul, he accompanies us even in the next lifetime, right? And unless we don't surrender to the Lord, then beyond the Lord, I mean, our family, our friends, they cannot go beyond a certain point, right? So we have to eventually surrender. Thank you so much, Vrinda Gopika Mataji. And what else do we learn? In this slide, there is the key lesson. The prayers that Gajendra offered, how did it come to him?
Okay, so even by offering fruit, leaf, or a flower, that's all what God needs, what Krishna needs. So just like Gajendra just offered a lotus flower to Supreme Personality of God.
Yes, when he was in that excruciating pain, you can see in this picture how he's offering a lotus. He saw Lord Vishnu arriving on Garuda, and he takes a lotus from the lakeside and he offers it to the Lord. So even in that excruciating pain, he has not forgotten a devotional service. So therefore, what is the lesson? What is the lesson? One important point
So
we are
it's
learning.
like if you are engaged in the devotional service, if God is dear to you, then you are dear to Him.
Okay. But my point is, how did Gajendra come to this point? He is in the body of an elephant.
Because he remembered from his previous lifetime the prayers.
Yes, because he has learned this in his previous life. In his previous life, he was a king, Indradyumna. Right here we read. So in the next lifetime, even though he's in the body of an elephant, right, he is carrying on from where he left off. So these prayers, these very famous prayers of Gajendra, he actually learned in his previous lifetime. So whatever devotional service we do, even if for any reason, by chance, we are not able to complete or we are not able to successfully go all the way, still it does not get wasted. We take it with us in the next lifetime and it will be useful for us. Somehow, somewhere, it will come into play. Even the smallest, Krishna does not forget. Even the simplest of offerings we do for him. Even we pluck a flower and we offer it to the Lord in our temple, even that is registered by Krishna. He never forgets the smallest of service that we do. Okay, nothing is wasted. At death, all that is not taken away from us. So these are the important lessons we learn from Gajendra. So one category of person who surrenders to the Lord, the distressed. Now, second category, the desirer of wealth. We saw in the story of Dhruva. What was actually Dhruva wanted? He, of course, he became a pure devotee. Under the guidance of Narada Muni, his spiritual master, he went to the forest and he was chanting Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And in 6 months' time, the Lord appeared personally before him. Yes. But what was Dhruva's desire in the beginning?
He wanted a kingdom greater than his father.
Greater than Lord Brahma, not greater than his father, greater than his grandfather. He wanted a kingdom greater than Lord Brahma also, imagine. So he had a material desire in his heart. It's not a spiritual desire, right? To have a big kingdom. It's not a spiritual desire. He had a material desire. But then because he worshipped the Supreme Lord, the Lord appeared before him. But what is the difference here between offering okay, later in the today we will, let's see if we can get there. Krishna talks about how one surrenders to demigods, right? So one may have a material desire and he may choose to pray to a demigod for the material desire, or he may choose to pray to Lord Vishnu or Krishna for the material desire. Now there is a difference when a demigod fulfills the material desire and when Vishnu Tattva fulfills the material desire. What is the difference? When Vishnu Tattva or Krishna fulfills material desires, he will first purify our heart in such a way that now actually that desire is not there anymore. Then he will give it to us. But a demigod does not purify the heart before giving us the material benediction. So in the case of Dhruva, when he saw the Lord in front of him and the Lord asked him, okay, what do you want? He says, no, I don't want anything. Now he was ashamed to ask because now he realized, he says that, oh, I was asking for some broken pieces of glass. Then Dhruva realized, now that he is a self-realized soul, he realizes that what he was asking was just broken pieces of glass. He tells Lord Vishnu, I don't want anything. Okay, so his heart has been purified by the Lord, but still the Lord fulfilled his desire. He wanted a kingdom greater than that of Lord Brahma. Did he get it?
He got to Dhruva Loka.
Yes, he got an entire planet, and that is even better than Brahma Loka. Why? How do we know Dhruva Loka? How do the scientists know Dhruva Loka as?
North Pole, like there's the North Star.
The pole star, yeah, the pole star, around which everything revolves. Yes.
Right.
So what is the difference between Brahma Loka and Dhruva Loka? Is Brahma Loka eternal? Will Brahma Loka come to an end?
It will come to an
Yes.
end.
Yes, Brahma Loka is not eternal. Even the planet of Lord Brahma will be destroyed at the time of destruction. But the planet of Lord Dhruva is eternal. It is never going to get destroyed. So actually the Dhruva Loka is a spiritual planet within the material world. So Lord Vishnu did fulfill the desire of Dhruva, but before fulfilling the desire, he purified his heart. So this is the second category of people who worship the Lord because they desire wealth. Third category, the inquisitor. So we know that the Srimad Bhagavatam is a conversation between Sukadeva Goswami and Maharaj Parikshit. Yes. Now, when this conversation happened between Sukadeva Goswami and Maharaj Parikshit for 7 days, in that audience, there was also Sutta Goswami. Okay. Now, Sutta Goswami, after he heard this conversation between Maharaj Parikshit and Sukadeva Goswami, he is walking and he comes across a group of sages. These sages have a leader called Saunaka Rishi, and they are just inquisitive. They are very casually inquiring from Sutta Goswami. Oh, you were in that audience when the Bhagavatam was spoken by Sukadeva Goswami to Maharaj Parikshit. Please also tell us, what is it that you heard? So they are inquiring from Sutta Goswami. So this is the third category, the inquisitive, who have a casual inquiry. They also, after the casual inquiry, then because they know about Krishna, then they surrender to the Lord. Fourth category are the jnanis, who are searching for the knowledge of the absolute. So that example is the four Kumaras. The four Kumaras are the four sons of Lord Brahma, and they underwent several severe austerities to realize the absolute truth. So they come under the fourth category of people. Let's read this text.
This jnani is not a jnana yoga yogi, but is a person who approaches Krishna with knowledge. He thinks there must be some reality beyond this world. I want to know what that reality is. I want to develop a relationship with that reality. And because of that, this jnani is free from material motives. That is why connecting with Krishna becomes much swifter and easier. It is also much more pleasing to Krishna because this person is coming with a relatively selfless motive. The other three categories of people, Artha, the distressed, Artha Arti, the one who desires wealth, and Jijnasu, the inquisitive, they will all become Jnanavan or possessors of knowledge after some time, as explained in Bhagavad Gita 7.19. Mahunam Janmanan Ante Janava Mam Prapadante, meaning after many births and deaths, he who is actually in knowledge surrenders unto me.
So this fourth category, the jnani, he doesn't have a material motive. He is just seeking. He is very seriously seeking, and he wants to know the absolute truth. He wants to know Krishna. So these first three categories, the distressed, the one who desires wealth, and the jignashu, they are called as sakama devotees. Sakama devotees means they are devotees, but they are approaching the Lord out of sakama, because of their own desires, because they see their benefit, some profit out of it. Therefore, they are surrendering to Krishna. The distressed, the desirer of wealth, and the inquisitive. Another important point here is, usually, okay, it's not the case with Gajendra, and it is not the case with Dhruva. It's not the case with even the sages of Naimisharanya. But usually, as a general rule, the distressed, the desire of wealth, and the inquisitive, after their desire is fulfilled, then they go away, they walk away. Then their bhakti comes to a full stop, at least for that moment. For example, when somebody is distressed, he's going through some health issues, then he prays to the Lord. Now he's healthy, he's fit and fine. Then he may not continue to worship the Lord. Same thing, one who desires wealth. Usually, once the desire is fulfilled, then he does not continue to worship the Lord the way he was doing it previously. Or even the inquisitive. Okay, he's passing by the temple. He enters, he sees, oh, what's going on? Oh, this is what, it's like window shopping, no? We say, okay, what's going on? Let's see what's going on. And then we just come back home. Window shopping, we don't actually buy. So the inquisitive also is like that. They just go, okay, they get a hang of what's going on, and then they go back. They don't come back to surrender. So these three, they go away after their thing is fulfilled. But the jnani, because he's seriously seeking the absolute truth, he does not go away. Okay, this is another thing that we have to consider between these four sukritinas. But of course, there are people, like in the case of, we saw the examples, no? We saw Gajendra, he did not go away. He surrendered. Even in the case of Dhruva, he got the planet, and he is a self-realized soul, right? So there are some people who will not go away, because then they see that, okay, the Lord has helped me when I was in distress. The Lord has helped me get the wealth. So their faith strengthens even more, and they surrender even more. But usually, as a general rule, I'm saying, after the desire is fulfilled, the first three categories, they go away, but the fourth category, they do not go away. So let's see a summary.
Yes. Sukritinas definition: pious people, adherent of regulative principles of scriptures, follow moral and social laws, more or less devoted to the Supreme Lord. Are they pure devotees? No, because they have some aspiration to fulfill in exchange for devotional service. Pure devotional service explained. Render transcendental loving service favorably, without desire for material profit or gain. Destiny of Sukritinas. They follow devotional service for above four reasons. In due course, they associate with pure devotees and get purified, achieve pure devotional service.
So they are not pure devotees because they are Sakama devotees. That's why they are, but in due course of time, then they become pure devotees. Let's continue.
At what stage do these four Sukritinas become pure devotees? When they are free from all material desires, when they fully understand that material remuneration has nothing to do with spiritual improvement. What is the hope for miscreants in regard to devotional service? For them, devotional service is very difficult because their lives are selfish, irregular, and without spiritual goals. Is there any hope anytime? If by chance they come in contact with a pure devotee, they also become pure devotees.
Okay. So here we see a summary of the same thing. 4 Dushkritinas and the 4 Sukritinas. You can see the Sukritinas are looking towards Krishna, so they surrender to Krishna, but the Dushkritinas have their back towards Krishna because they never surrender to Krishna. Okay, let's see in 17 descriptions.
तेषां ज्ञानी नित्ययुक्ता एकभक्तिर्विशिष्यते प्रियो हि ज्ञानिनोत्यर्थम् अहं स च मम प्रियः.
Of these, the one who is in full knowledge and who is always engaged in pure devotional service is the best, for I am very dear to him and he is dear to me.
So out of these 4, who is the best, Krishna says?
The devotee.
The Gyanis.
The
full
Jnanis, yes, the Jnanis. Out of these 4, the Jnanis, the 4th category, they are the best. Because obviously they are inquiring for, they have a serious inquiry. And after they make that serious inquiry and they know who is Krishna, what do? Do they go away? No, naturally they surrender to Krishna. So he's saying that amongst these 4, the Jnani is the best. I am very dear to him and he is dear to me. But then what about the other 3? One may think that, okay, Krishna is saying that the 4th category, they are the best. So that means the other 3 are not so important. Krishna sees, let's see what he says in the next one.
उदारा सर्व एवैते ज्ञानीतात्मैव मे मतम् आस्थितः स हि युक्तात्मा मामेवानुत्तमां गतिम्.
All these devotees are undoubtedly magnanimous souls, but he who is situated in knowledge of me, I consider to be just like my own self. Being engaged in my transcendental service, he is sure to attain me, the highest and most perfect goal.
So now Krishna is saying that, okay, just because previously I said that the Jnanis are the best, that doesn't mean the other 3 are not. He is saying all these devotees, all these 4 are Udara. They are all magnanimous souls, he says. Why? Because whatever be the reason, at least they are surrendering to him. At least they are coming to him. Yes. And therefore, Krishna is giving them credit. And here he's talking about himself being the highest and the most perfect goal. He says that he is Uttamam Gatim. He is the highest destination. So there is no destination higher than the Loka where Krishna resides. There is no destination higher than that. So he's calling himself as the highest and the most perfect goal, Uttamam Gatim. Another important point here. Okay, let's see 90 what happens.
Bahunam janmanamante Jnanavan mam prapadyate Vasudeva sarvamiti Samahatma sudurlabha.
After many births and deaths, he who is actually in knowledge surrenders unto me, knowing me to be the cause of all causes and all that is. Such a great soul is very rare.
So again, he's talking about the rarity of someone who takes to devotional service. Previously also, we saw in the previous class how Krishna spoke about the rarity of someone coming to Krishna. Here again, he repeats the same point, 7.9. He says, Bahunam Janmanam Ante. After many, many births and deaths, one in knowledge surrenders unto me. Vasudeva Sarvam Iti. That Vasudev, he is Sarvam, he is everything. To this understanding, they come after a very, very long time. And such a person who comes to this understanding, he is a Mahatma, he is a great soul, he is a Mahatma, he is a great soul. And to see such a person is Sudurlabha. It is very, very rare to come across such a person or to come to this understanding. Bahunam Janmanam Ante Jnanavan Mam Prapadyante. He surrenders unto me, Krishna says. So the important points here, first of all, devotional service is very, very rare. It's very rare to get the opportunity to render devotional service. Krishna doesn't give the opportunity to serve him to anyone and everyone. Okay, he gives the opportunity to serve him only to those who are very sincere. Why he doesn't give this opportunity to everyone? Because the only way we can bind Krishna or we can control Krishna is when we surrender unto him. Krishna is he is the supreme personality of Godhead. It's not possible to control him, yes, but he comes under the control of his pure devotees. You can see Krishna is driving Arjuna's chariot. Yashoda wanted to bind him with a rope. Imagine he's the one who's keeping all the planets floating in space, and Yashoda wants to tie him to the motor, the Damodar Leela. No, she wants to tie him to the motor. So Krishna can be brought under the control of his pure devotees, and he is not going to let anyone and anyone control him. Right? You're not going to give out the secret of how you can be controlled. So that Krishna reveals only to his sincere devotees, and therefore very rarely one gets the opportunity to render service to Krishna. And therefore, when we get the opportunity to serve Krishna, we should not let go of that opportunity. We have to make the most of that opportunity to render service. So here we see how it's very, very rare that one gets to render devotional service to Krishna. Another important point here is that ultimately, jnana will lead to bhakti. Because he's saying the jnani, jnanavan mam prapadyante. So once one gets the knowledge, then ultimately that leads to surrendering to Krishna. So jnana leads to bhakti. That's why we have to learn the Shastras. From the Shastras, we get knowledge, and then when we apply the knowledge, we are on the stage of bhakti. Okay?
Mataji,
Yes.
so those who have the opportunity to do service are lucky?
Very, 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 very fortunate. Very fortunate that Krishna gives only to the sincere souls. Yes. Okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. So we'll stop here. We'll continue in the next class. Okay? Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
की जय
Jai.
श्री माता की जय ऑल भक्त वृंद की जय पंचकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिंधुमयेव च पतितनां पावनेभ्यो नमो नमः श्री भागवत गीता की जय थैंक यू माता जी कोटि कोटि दंडवत प्रणाम टू योर सेवा हरे
Thank you.
कृष्णा
Hare Krishna.
माता जी tomorrow is Shri Radha Ashtami after day after tomorrow, so can you please some mercy some leelas.
Yes, yes. I was just about to say that here in the Western world, Sri Radha Ashtami is on Monday, but in India it's on Tuesday. So one of Krishna's name is Madana Mohana, right? Because Krishna is so attractive that he attracts thousands of cupids. But Srimati Radharani, she is Madana Mohana Mohini. She attracts that personality who attracts thousands of cupids. So that's why Srimati Radharani is so much more important to worship Srimati Radharani. Srila Prabhupada also said that actually Radhashtami is the real festival. Janmashtami is only an indicator that Radhashtami is coming, so we have to get ready for the festival. There's a 2-week difference between Janmashtami and Radhashtami, right? So please celebrate Radhashtami. If you can go to your local ISKCON temple and be a part of the celebrations, it would be very nice. Otherwise, celebrate in your house. And we fast till 12 noon, complete fast till 12 noon for the appearance day of Srimati Radharani. Srimati Radharani is also called as, one of Srimati Radharani's name is Sarva Lakshmi. Right, all the wives of Krishna, all the queens of Dwarka, and all the goddesses of fortune are all coming from Srimati Radharani. They are all expansions of Srimati Radharani. That's why her name is Sarva Lakshmi. Right, all the Lakshmis are expansions of Srimati Radharani. Everyone is coming from her. And the word Radha, or the word Aradhana, comes from the name Radha. Aradhana means to worship, right? So Radha is that personality who perfectly worships Krishna. She is the best worshipper. Nobody can worship Krishna better than her. So please do try and fast till 12 noon. It's not so difficult, and the blessings are immense. Blessings are immense. So please check your local Vaishnava calendar. For India, I know it's on Tuesday, and in Chile, it's on Monday. I don't know in the States. Vrinda Gopika Mataji, it's also on Monday?
Mataji, tomorrow.
Tomorrow, Sunday?
Yes.
Okay. Fine. Okay. All right.
Different state in a different way. In California, maybe day after tomorrow. But in Atlanta, as our Vedic calendar, tomorrow.
Okay. So please, Shreya, I don't know, are you and Vrinda Gopika Mataji in the same location?
Yeah, in the same time zone. Yeah. Yes.
Okay. For those in other locations, then please check your local calendars. Okay, what else do we have to discuss?
Mataji, can I take 3 minutes behalf of you, add some Shishi Radhashtami's, what is the Mahatma of Srimati Shishi Radharani's lotus feet?
Yes, please, Mataji.
There is one Leela in Shidam Vrindavan Dham that Srimati Shishi Radharani and all Ashtasakhi is serving Lord Krishna. They are collecting Kadamba flower. So what happened? Srimati Shishi Radharani upar latak gaye and Lalita Sakhi. So Lord Krishna will come or what is the benefit of this Leela? So all the Devi Devtas and all the Rishi Munis and all the Acharyas take the darshan of lotus feet of Srimati Shishi Radharani. So only on Radhashtami we get the lotus darshan of lotus feet of Srimati Shishi Radharani. And Srimati Shishi Radharani is so merciful. She said that this Shreya is so sincere Vaishnavi. All the Bhakti, all Shishi Bhakti Bhagavad Gita group Vaishnavis and Shinam Mataji's are so sincere Vaishnavi. She said to Lord Krishna, please accept. Then only Lord Krishna is accept. Lord Krishna never give a mercy directly. So Srimati Radharani is so merciful. And Lord Krishna and Srimati Radharani is a dos Swarup, but one Atma. And she is a Antaranga Shakti of Lord Krishna. And one more Leela explain about the we have to take a vow to this Radhashtami. We should not criticize any Vaishnava, not complain whatever difficulties came in our life. We are not complaining. When more and more difficulties came in our life, we become more and more sincere in the bhakti and not comparison ourselves. Like some Vaishnava is very master in cooking, some Vaishnava is in a book distribution. Our Srinam Mataji is given a mercy that we can hear Krishna Katha. Some Vaishnava are garland making, so that all mercy is given by Srimati Shishi Radharani. Even some preachers are preaching. Sometimes Shridam Prabhu has a big preacher, my counselor, but one day he forgot the diary, and I see he never seen, hardly seen 4-5 point, and that day he's not able to speak single words in a front of 4,500 Vaishnava. So that he said that I have a pride, little pride, that nobody will preach like me. So in a Shri Radha Gopinath, there is a fountain. So the fountain water is going up and down. So we should not proud whatever seva is given. That is by the mercy of Srimati Shri Radharani. Today, Shinam Mataji is working maybe 2, 3, 4 weeks. When I have to give a class, after 1 week, I understand that I take 10 books and read from here and here. So Shinam Mataji is working too much hard to give a Krishna consciousness. So all these Vaishnavis become a spiritual bomb, and they preach Krishna consciousness to all over the world by the mercy of Srimati Shri Radharani. Srimati Shri Radharani and all the Sakhis are singing Gopi Gita, that is Viraha Bhava. Then Pranaya Dehanam. Then Srimati Shri Radharani is comparing Lord Krishna with the moon. And please forgive me, Lord Krishna comparing Srimati Shri Radharani with the moon. And Srimati Shri Radharani becomes so angry. The moon has a spot, and we all Sakhis and Vishakha Sakhi said that Srimati Shri Radharani and all Sakhis, we are loving without any expectation. Then Srimati Shri Radharani said that you are a Tribhanga Krishna, like Brajanath. There is a given Agna by our Sixth Goswami Acharya that made a Lord Krishna's temple in Shridham Vrindavan Dham. That time Brajanath is a son of grandson of Lord Krishna, and only Srimati Sri Uttara Maharani knows. So she give a measure of how Lord Krishna looks. So the lotus feet the lotus feet is then one time Brajanath make a deities by explained by the Uttara Maharani, because she only knows Lord Krishna. So that she said that Srimati Uttara Maharani said that this Lord Krishna's lotus feet look like a Shri Radha Madan Mohan, and the other deities Lord Krishna, Uttara Maharani said that Vakshasthala is look like a Lord Krishna, and that is Shri Radha Gopinath, and the lotus feet is Shri Radha Madan Mohan. And then the third deities is Uttara Maharani said, Brajanath, these deities look like a Shri Radha Govind. So the face is look like a Radha Govind Dev. So this is a Tribhanga, Tribhanga. Hey Lord Krishna, you are a Tribhanga, but I am my love is not like divide like Tribhanga. We all Sakhis love unexpectedly or expectedly love to you. And there is example that one time Narad Muni said that can you please Krishna is a headache. That time Narad Muni Krishna said, please bring a dust of any Vaishnava that my headache will go. So he's going everywhere. All the Rishi Munis, all the queens, they said, no, we don't give our lotus feet. We have to go in a hell. And after that, last Narad Muni is going to all the gopis and Srimati Radharani, they give a lotus feet on the spot. So they said that million times we have to go in a hell, but if by our Charan Raj, if Lord Krishna's headache is gone, then we are ready. So this is the love, unexpected love of Srimati Shri Radharani and all Sakhis. There is so many leelas explained by next time by Srimati Aji Shri Mataji. Hari Hari Gauranga, Shri Radhashtami ki jai, Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gurudev ki jai, Jai Jai Nityananda, Jai Jai Gauranga. Moreover, we have to praise Srimati Shri Radharani. Please engage in the lotus feet of Shri Radha Gopinath service. How can we reach Shri Radha Gopinath? By serve Vaishnava, manual service, to sweep and mop, to sweep and mop the temple and our home kitchen, and sweep to clean the vessels in the temple. So manual service in the Prabhupada love and Srimati Shri Radharani and Lord Krishna accept us. So we have to take some seva in a temple or our home temple, then only we get the bhakti, and then only by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, our Guru Parampara and our Acharya, we reach the mercy of Bhakti Devi Srimati Sri Tulsi Maharani and then Srimati Sri Radharani, and finally we get the mercy of Lord Krishna. Hari Hari Gauranga. If I made any mistake, please forgive me. Dandavat Pranam to all Vaishnava. Thank you, Sri Ram Mataji. Dandavat Pranam.
Thank you, Mataji. Very nice. So, very nice nectar, and very nice to hear about Srimati Radharani just before her appearance day. Jai. Srimati Radharani ki Jai. Vrinda Gopika Mataji ki Jai.
Jai.
Okay.
All glories to Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gurudev, Sri Radha Gopinath.
Jai, Jai Srila Prabhupada.